So I would start sharing my screen now. And let me know once you see. Give me a thumbs up, right, if you are able to see. Okay, so yeah, so next session is about how do you prepare for Dynamics 365 interviews, and I think it is not only related to the topics which you guys were. I think one of the thing which you see, right, what you were asking in about solution architect and everything, everything goes beyond like how do you transition. Now, when you are transitioning, one of the thing which you will go through is the interview process. Now, whether it's a functional consultant, technical consultant, or any role you are applying in this space, right? You have to go through this specific process. Now, in today's session, I'm not going to tell you that questions which anyone would ask on finance or supply chain or all those things, but I will try to share my approach for any of the interview, that how do I take that interview and how do I approach that interview in a broader framework so that I can prepare and go and give my best about to that specific interview process, right? So in my opinion, there are certain key aspects which you need to keep in mind whenever you are going through an interview process and when you are planning to switch to your job or applying for a new job, right? First thing is about knowing your resume, knowing the profile which you are applying, know certain basics about this Dynamics 365 ecosystem, know your strength and weaknesses, and the last one is, which is very critical, is the drive your interview. It's your story. Do not expect that the interviewer will come and ask you and then you are just there to answer those questions, right? So now today we will be go through on each and every aspect which is listed here in bit more detail and share my thought process, what I mean by when I say know your resume or drive your interview, right? But before that, I would just like to share that in my almost 10, 12 years of career, right? This is my career journey. So I started 2013 with a company called Coextrix Technologies. I put a name because no one would know that. So what I'm trying to explain with that is that I started a journey with a small company with a maybe without any knowledge and in the dynamics just after college, right? And then I moved to the bigger companies like Capgemini, PwC, EY, and now I'm working with Microsoft in my current role. So the thing is that you might think that I'm working with Microsoft, so I might have different approach and things. But if you see, right, that journey is your journey, and it becomes special when you put your effort and energy to make it to the place where you want to be. Right now, I started with a small company, which many of you possibly are working also. So don't think that you can't reach to a any other big company, or it will be really difficult for you to crack the interviews for those organizations. Here is an example for you. I mean, I started with a very small company and now I'm working with a Microsoft, right? So it's all about the putting up the energy and the right approach in place to reach to your goal, whatever your goal. I'm not saying you want to be part of Microsoft. You want to be part of any of the organization, right? So it's just your journey. So you need to drive that story yourself. Okay. And there is no, I mean, you can start any point of time. So now, I mean, as I said, like the first point, whenever you are applying for a job, right, and you are planning to transition to another role or any job you are applying, right? So first thing is that you should know your resume. I have seen in my experience, a lot of people, they create the resume, they prepare the resume, share to the recruiters, and a lot of things are copy pasted by someone else. Okay, take from this person, take from that person. Oh, this is looking good, let's add that to the resume so that it gets shortlisted, right? But and most of the people lack in the understanding that what they have written and why they have written. Okay, so you should know your resume properly, and it should be in the right format. Sometimes a lot of AI is there. I see there are different formats we want to create for the resume and everything. So first thing is that, in my opinion, keep it a simple, whatever the traditional formats are there, keep it a Word format or PDF format, and then make it simple. Don't put a lot of graphics and all those things there just to show your designing creativity, because you are the consultant. You are not applying for any designer role or the some art role or something, right? You need to communicate your profile, and you communicate in a better way in a plain format, in my opinion, right? The second thing is, whenever you are preparing for your resume, right? Now, a lot of people have a longer experience. They might have a 56, 5, 6, or 10 years or 20 years of experience, right? So when you are having so much experience, you have a lot to tell. Now, when you are writing everything in your resume becomes 4 pages, 5 pages, and all those things. And that is where it is important that your resume's first page should highlight your key skills which matches to the job description. So if I'm applying for a functional consultant or a solution architect role, in my first page of the resume, it should clearly come out that it the this job for which I am applying, it matches to my skill set. If I'm writing about my solution architect journey or the project where I was solution architect or the key skill set on second and third page, just imagine that the impression when the person is reviewing that he or she will read the first page, and if they don't understand that what your skill set is and does it match to this current profile, I think the high chances are they are going to skip that, right? So your first page of the resume should clearly highlight, and it should match the skill set for the job where you are applying. Okay, so it should clearly come out from there. Now, for the beginners, right? So now there can be two categories, for the beginners and for the people who are experienced but trying to make their way in Dynamics 365 space, right? So for the beginners, I would suggest, what is key thing, like if I'm a recruiter and if I'm hiring a fresher of 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years experience, what is the key thing I'm expecting from that person? I'm expecting that that person will be able to be a good functional consultant and should know the core modules configurations and things. So that means it becomes very necessary for you that in the first page, you highlight the list of modules you know, and with the proficiency, if you can say that, okay, this is the high proficiency, I'm the expert in finance, APAR, GL, fixed asset, cash and bank, but medium in my, let's say, budgeting and the cost accounting, and the low in, let's say, supply chain area, which is procurement and sales and marketing, right? Now, what does this give to the recruiter? That recruiter has a very clear understanding that, okay, I need a finance consultant, this person knows these modules which are core, and this person claims to be the expert in this, which is good, right? So that becomes very evident for a person who is reviewing your profile or taking your interview, that where they need to ask the question to you, or whether you are a good fit for them or not, from the beginner perspective, right? So that is the first suggestion on for the beginners. And for the experts, right? I think it should reflect their other capabilities and the skills which they bring from the other skill set. So for example, if you come from a very strong business background, let's say you are the accountant for last 10 years and now you are want to become finance consultant, you should highlight that you understand the accounting processes, the accounting standards, and everything about that domain very clearly, right? So that when the person is reviewing your resume, that person understand, okay, this person doesn't have the background in Dynamics for long, but brings the different knowledge which is about the domain and the business process and the standard of the accountings and so on, right? So that becomes very important for the people who are applying or who are preparing the resume. Now, also in your first page, you should also highlight the key summary of your entire profile. Like, for example, you have how many years of experience, how much is in Dynamics, how much is non-Dynamics, what are the key skill set you have. You understand finance module, supply chain module, you understand requirement gathering, you know the workshop conduct, how to conduct workshops, you know the test case preparation or what you need, right? A clear summary should be also put in the first page of your resume, so that it becomes very evident for a person that what exactly the skill sets you have it. So if you look at what the point I have highlighted is that the knowing your resume, knowing the profile is very important for you, and then highlighting what is important for the job and writing it on the first page of the resume is very important. Okay, so that is what you need to keep in mind from this resume perspective. Second is know your job profile. Now, it is a very common thing when we are looking for the job anywhere we see Dynamics 365, we just hit the apply button and then just thinking that it will they will call us and then we can apply for that. First thing is that you need to know your job profile, what you need, and so that when you are applying for any job, you can evaluate whether it matches to your skill set or not. You shouldn't apply for, you are a functional consultant for the finance and you are applying for supply chain. It is not going to work, right? So know your job profile. What is your job profile? What is your core skill set before you apply for any of the job which you see, right? So you should be very clear about that. You should know each aspect of your role. If you are a functional consultant, you should know what a functional consultant is supposed to do. If you are a solution architect, you should know that what a solution architect is supposed to do in a project lifecycle. If you are a technical consultant, technical architect, you should know what they are supposed to do, right? What is a day in life scenario for these different roles for which you are applying? You should know about that thing. Then read the job description very carefully. Don't apply, as I said, on a supply chain consultant role if you want to become a finance functional consultant, right? Then ask clarity when you get a call from the recruiter, right? Sometimes when the recruiter calls, and because recruiter is not an expert of dynamics and they might get a requirement for business and they might call, hey, are you interested in the functional consultant? Ask them, is it a finance functional consultant or a supply chain? Recruiter might not know very clearly, so ask it very upfront. Don't hesitate in asking that, oh, what if I ask and if it is not matching? I think it is a better, right? You will save a lot of time and energy rather than applying for a wrong job profile. You might focus on a better job which is going to be listed in next few months on that same company, right? Or you might tell to the recruiter that no, your skill set is this, so that the recruiter knows that tomorrow if they need a finance function consultant, they call you, right? And if they don't need a, if they need a supply chain consultant, they call someone else, right? So all these things you should clarify. You should not hesitate asking these questions, okay? And say no if the job role doesn't align to your skill set. Learn to say no. Don't say that, okay, you have a supply chain. Okay, I can work on that also. No, I mean, if you are not aligned with that skill set, why you want to apply for that job? Say no and say that in future, if you have something which is aligned to my skill set, I would like to apply for that. So these are the certain key things which you should know before you apply for a job. Now, the next thing is, let's say you know your profile better, your job description, everything fits, you have applied, right? Now you are preparing for an interview. Okay. So how do you, before you go into the interview, now many people will just go and start revising finance, supply chain, all the concepts there, right? But one of the things which I have seen is that people miss the basics. One thing which is common across any of the role you apply in this Dynamics 365 space. For example, you should know the what is the project life cycle and the phases of Dynamics 365. Now, it doesn't matter you are a functional, technical, or solution architect. If you don't know what are the phases you have in a typical Dynamics 365 project, I think not going to be a very good impression on the person who is taking the interview, right? So know the basics, know the key terms. Now maybe interviewer will ask, okay, have you used ADO? And now you are wondering what ADO means, right? Like Azure DevOps. FDD, and now you are wondering that what this FDD term means. So at least know the key terms. These are the basics which you should prepare for before you even talk about your skill set, what you have, right? Know the tools which you have in this entire ecosystem, at least the names. If they say, okay, can you create a ticket on LCS? Do you know that? And now you are wondering what LCS means is. And they say that, okay, now we are merging the platform with a PPAC, and now you don't know what the PPAC means, the full form. So it is very important that you understand the project life cycle, the key terms which you have, the jargons which are used in this space, the tools which are used at least in a typical project, and the different types of project, like it's upgrade project, implementation project, support project, and what phases you have in what project roles also you are having. Okay, so you need to understand at least these basic, irrespective of which profile, what role you are applying. So like you might say that, okay, I have a support role. They might say that we want to have a support role, and then you don't know the support role means for you, or the support project is, what is upgrade project is. Okay, so it is very important that you prepare your basics, which are not relevant, possibly, or not exactly what your core skill set is. But these are the basics which in a any Dynamics 365 project, anyone would expect from you. So prepare for those basics before you start preparing for any core skill set which you have. Now, the next thing is, now you know your basics, job profile is fit, you have prepared your resume. Now you are getting into the interview, but how do you prepare? I follow a very traditional method is that take a pen and paper, draw a line in between left side and the right side, write your strength and the weaknesses. Okay. So every person, right? No one is perfect in this world. No one is expert in everything. No one can know everything about the role which they are applying. Okay. It is so vast topic for every person to cover everything, right? So what you should do, in my opinion, is that put down your all the strengths according to the job profile you are applying. So if you are applying for finance consultant or the solution architect or whichever, what are your key strengths which you want to show to the interviewer in that interview discussion? What you want to project, right? What is your key strength as per you? Write down those things. Then also write down the weaknesses. Identify the areas where you are not having that much command, because now you know the job description and the job profile for which you are applying, right? So you should know that what are the key things which where you are lacking. So write down those weaknesses also. Now, why it is important, and I will cover that in the next slide, because when you are talking in an interview, right, it is important to accept what you don't know. And you can accept only when you can accept that what you don't know only when you know what you don't know. Sometimes it is like, okay, they are asking question and then you are just answering just sake of answering, and you don't have a clue about that. But if you know your weaknesses very clearly, if they ask a question about that, you can clearly say that, no, I don't know about this thing. Say no very clearly. That saves the time and energy for both of you. But putting down the strength helps you in diverting that topic in a smooth way and turning into the positive thing. How? Let's say someone is asking you, have you implemented budget planning in as a finance consultant? Now, let's say that is your weakness. You have worked on budgeting module, but the basic budgeting, but not on budget planning. So you can clearly say that, hey, I did not get the chance in my implementation to use the budget planning, but I have a good knowledge of the basic budgeting, how it works. And I'm happy to learn the budget planning as well. Now, what you are doing is, since you are very clear what is your weakness, what you don't know, you accepted that, saved the time. And then since you know what is the other relevant thing is there, you change it to in a positive thing that you at least know the basic budgeting, and you are showing your curiosity that you are ready to learn the budget planning as well. It just you did not get the chance in your implementations, and then you that is why you did not learn that part. Okay, so that is how it will help you to put down your strength and the weaknesses very clearly that it helps you to turn out your negative impression into the positive impression during the interview. Now, once you know your strength and the weaknesses, and let's say now you are in the interview discussion, you are having the interview, then what are the key things you should do that? So first of all, any interview is there. It is your interview. It is about you. It is about your story. So you should be on the driving seat. You should not sit back and allow the interviewer to drive that entire interview. Okay, because they expect you to tell you about yourself and tell about your skill set, how it fits, how you can help the organization, right? So you should be good in your storytelling. Your story should be as smooth as that you a child can understand that how you started your career, how you moved to different stages, and why did you move to different stages, what motivated you to move to different stages, and then what you did in those different transitions. So your story should be very smooth, very flawless, like it should be able, I mean, anyone can understand that. So when you are talking about like when you prepare for interview, right, about like one of the question which anyone will ask, like what tell me about yourself, right? So when you have that question, right, you should talk about you, your story, your experience with the companies, the project you work, and the technical modules like a configuration and etc. So if you take any interview for any of the profile, there are three key segments anyone can ask you. They can ask you about you and your previous experience, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, they can ask you about the companies for which you worked and what role you did there and what contribution you made. And the third thing can go very technical about the configurations or anything technically applicable to that specific role. So you should prepare your interview in these three segments: that about you, your story, the roles and the companies where you work, and the core skill sets which are applicable for your job profile. Now, for example, I am an experienced person. I have worked on different projects. Maybe my previous experience was non-Dynamics, and now I'm transitioning into Dynamics 360, I suppose. So my configuration skills are not that great, let's say, right? But my understanding about the business, the role which I have performed is good. So when I will start, like first question would be like, okay, tell me about yourself. So I can say, hey, I'm Saurabh. I have started my career in 2013. I worked on, I've been working on Dynamics 365 and all so on. Now, when I'm finishing this thing, I won't finish like abruptly just at a suddenly that, okay, now you ask the question, right? I should finish with the topic which I want the recruiter or that interviewer to ask. So now in this case, I want them to ask about the project experience, not about the configuration. So when I'm ending, I should end that I have worked on many projects where I have performed different kind of role as a lead consultant and implemented Dynamics for different types of customers and these different companies. Now, if I stop here, as a normal human behavior, the interviewer will ask, okay, you have worked on different projects. Can you give me some example of your projects? Right? So now interviewer is asking what you wanted them to ask. It is not going in a direction of configuration. But now let's say I am very good in the configurations. I don't know about much about, let's say, business or the project role. So now when I finish about my role, I started my career and I worked in Dynamics HCI space and all those things. And then when I'm finishing it, I can say that, and I have a lot of modules experience. I know about the finance modules, how APAR and all these things works. And I also have a good understanding about the supply chain module configuration. And I'm very passionate about the new features which are coming in. Now I'm ending here. What I want that interviewer to ask, I want them to ask about the modules and the configuration, which is my strong part, right? Which means when you are given a chance, the first question should be from the interviewer, but after that, anything which is interviewer is asking, right, it should be by you, that you make them ask the question which you would like to answer them. And how you can make them ask that question, by ending your every point in such a way that it is falling under your the topic which we discussed, the strength and the weakness. You end everything with your strengths, not with the weaknesses. So whenever you are telling your story, it should end in your strength segment, not in your weakness segment. And trust me, it is a 45 minutes or an hour interview. If you talk, if you drive your interview and your story in such a way, definitely you can, 30 to 45 minutes, interviewer will be forced to ask what you want them to ask and what you want them to share. Now, of course, it cannot be like you are just telling some irrelevant topic which are not relevant for the job profile. And but that is where we discuss, we prepared already. Our resume is well prepared. We know our job profile for which we are applying, or and we know our strength and weaknesses already. We know are the basics and all those things already, right? So we know that we are relevant for this job profile, and we are helping the interviewer to ask the question in the right direction only, right? So those are the key things which I would suggest, like whenever you're preparing for the dynamic system interview, you go in this direction. Your strategy should be in this way, that you make them ask the question about your strength, not about your weaknesses. And that you would know only when you are very clear about your strength and the weaknesses, right? So your story should be connecting in all three components. So whichever area you are good, I mean, that's what you should end your answer by giving the clue to the next topic, which is your strength, right? Not your weakness. For experienced people, like bring your experience as a strength, not a weakness, right? So for example, okay, was asking about, he has got a lot of experience in that. You should say that for this role, you already have a lot of key skill sets which are required for this role, let's say as a solution architect. For example, you understand the business, you understand the business processes, you understand the people, you understand the soft communication skill and everything. So you should highlight those things, rather than thinking that, hey, I don't have a dynamics background, am I the burden, or that it is a negative. No, it's not a negative thing, right? You should highlight your previous experience as an advantage for them, and that is your job to prove that it is an advantage for them. And that you would only know when you know what your role exactly is and where your previous experience fits into that specific role. And the for the beginners, I think everyone possibly starting career or something, they would say that no one would, I mean, they don't have experience. So show them the commitment about your learning, that you are ready to learn the things, how curious you are for learning new things, and how much committed you are for this specific job role, which is for which you are giving the interview, right? So these are the key things, in my opinion, that you should consider when you should strategize when you are going for an interview. So the key takeaway from here, that it's your story, you are responsible to tell that. Okay, if you don't tell in a better way, then interviewer will ask the question whatever that person wants to ask. Okay, and then you can ask question anywhere then. Okay, leverage your past experience, know your strength and the weaknesses, and prepare the basics. Those are the key takeaways, in my opinion, when you are preparing for your interviews for any of the profile, be it consultant, senior consultant, functional, technical, solution architect, anything. So that's where I will end.